Aloha all. So I thought I'd do a video today about the 47th gene key. It's the one that is transiting at the moment. And as ever, whenever, again, we step into this living field that is the gene keys and bring our awareness to them, our DNA responds. It begins to open up. It begins to reveal to us what has been hidden, and this particular key, the shadow, is oppression. And it's a heavy gene key to get into. It's incredibly deep. It's incredibly esoteric. It's part of the codon ring of alchemy, and even this word like alchemy has been so alive, like a zeitgeist word of like this alchemy coming back. And how do we actually begin to alchemize this lead into gold, right? This is not a physical process, although for a lot of history it has been believed to be a physical process. It's actually an internal alchemy process where we're changing one substance into another. And so we do this through our ability to both understand what's going on inside of us, unlocking parts of our DNA, and actually beginning to transmute some of the old programs that we've held. So what we're doing is actually going in and untangling some of our DNA so that we can get to the center of it, where the divine light exists. I will get into how that all works throughout this video, but let's just start with the shadow of oppression. Just with these shadow words, if you just feel the energy of them in your body, right? Words all have an energy. They have a frequency that moves through you. So if you can just first tune in to the word oppression, right? And you can feel it. I can feel a heaviness in my chest. I can feel a sinking in my belly. I can feel the energetic weight of that, right? And so as I explore this shadow, it feels like the weight of the world, and it is. Right? This is our collective karma. This is the suffering of the world. And as we choose to actually say that we will feel that, we are presented with the energetics of it. And that's no little thing, which is why I always, it's like I vet people before doing gene keys for them, because the power and the potency of opening yourself up to these kind of codes, unlocking them inside you, it will create a cascade of change and transformation in your life. And even the energy of me explaining this to you now, if it's really coming in, you're not just hearing the words, it's actually penetrating into you, right? And there's very much a difference there between listening mentally and actually hearing what's going on, where it's reverberating in your DNA. So this shadow of oppression has so much to do with the karma that we carry and our suffering. And not only ours as an individuated self, but also the collectives. So it really is going into the gateway of why suffering exists. And, I hear a lot of people say, like, oftentimes, why does it have to be this way? Why is the world like this? God would never let so-and-so happen. And that right there is the cutting off from the shadow. And if you truly want to move into freedom, we've got to allow ourselves to fully embrace that shadow aspect. The karma and the oppression is coming from within. That we have chosen not to look at, that which we fear the most, that instead of facing it, instead of actually letting it in to teach us, we cut ourselves off from it, we sever from it. And anything that we choose to sever off from, to place outside of self, is a part of what cuts us off from the divine source from which we come. So this key, this shadow, in a sense, is like you devoting yourself to looking at the fears that not only you have, that have been placed in your genetic line, but into all of the karmic fears that have been held by the collective. So even as I speak that, I feel the gravity of it, right? I feel the heaviness of it. And what I know from doing this deep inner work, from plant medicine journeys, from meditation, from allowing myself to face the things that confront me in my outer world, is that the only way is through. Because if you turn away from that which is uncomfortable, from that which you don't want to look at, and from that which you are fearing, you actually cause it to stagnate inside you and create dis-ease. It is asking to be integrated. It is asking to be looked at. Carl Jung writes a lot about this, the underworld, the collective shadow. And as we make the commitment to reveal those shadows to ourselves, we get taken on kind of that hero's journey. We get taken into the underworld where we're shown pretty much everything heinous that people have not wanted to confront that exists in this material world. But in order to change it, we have to face it. And the way that this world comes through, for me in plant medicine ceremonies, is through a lot of archetypical, archetypes, and also through symbolism. And these things are a way to begin to understand and unravel this world that there's not really a language for a lot of times. They've called it the doppelganger, the devil at the threshold. I think the Bible says it that way. This really is a path, and this key actually is a really Christed key. To me, it is the path of Christ. And I'm not religious and I'm not dogmatic, but this is the way that my life path has taken me. And it's really been shown to me that the Christed path is the human path. That is the true hero's journey. It is the crucifixion, the transfiguration, the transformation into that ascension process, that process of feeling forsaken in this world, to being almost ripped apart and shattered and crucified, to being transfigured into something new. To die on the cross and to be reborn. This key is so much about being reborn again and again and again and again. And the thing with oppression is it's calling us to our evolution. It's calling us to a place that our soul came in here to travel. It's calling us to a place to live full out with whatever shows up outside or inside, and fully embracing all of it, not turning away, not burying our head from any of it, to live life full out no matter what. There is like, and as I speak that, there is just this opening, this like, it causes my heart to open, to actually spread my wings, to say, I will embrace whatever comes. And it's like the center of my being opens up, and there's just, there's a knowing that I, as I am touched by the grace of all that is, can accept everything and anything into my infinite heart to be embraced by the heart of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. And I can hold that and invoke that in me when I don't shut myself off from anything that I think I am not a part of. So, you know, I'll speak about one of the journeys that opened this up in me. And it was a mushroom journey on the Lion's Gate. I think it was 2019. Yeah, I think it was 2019. So what I experienced was, I was in my body and I was working on a sister and what she was moving through. And I was trying to help her move through it. So I looked up and I literally prayed to the divine, to God, to grace, to help me to be able to serve her in the most aligned way possible, to help her feel that I was holding her hand as she was walking through the suffering. And in that moment, I saw 3 pillars of light come down from the sky. There was actually 3 of us there that night. And I watched these pillars hit the crown of my 2 sisters. But then as soon as I felt it hit my crown, I exploded. The individual identity of Araya ceased to exist, and I exploded into the infinite light of all there is. And that place of expansive, unending oneness, and feeling that indescribable kind of all-encompassing love that we don't truly experience on this planet. That's why it's indescribable. And just being this vastness that was connected to all that was, and this understanding that I was reunited in the mind of the Creator with all that has ever been created, that I have been, not even the separate I, but this collective I, that I have played an energetic part in birthing through me as creation itself. And every single experience, especially those of suffering, brought the greatest grace to every soul that said that they would experience it, to know what it was, to take that responsibility for bringing everything back into the oneness and loving the capacity to have a heart that could not be separate from that which created all things. It was this, again, like ecstasy of what it is to create. It's a very orgasmic type of feeling. It is sitting in the heart of the Mother, Father, Divine, and feeling yourself as that, but also simultaneously being conceived by that. So it's this paradoxical experiencing it, but you are it at the same time. And there's no you, it's just the presence of the I am. It's there's no words, actually. I don't even want to try and describe it. There is a moment of the feeling of starting to separate off from that. It's almost this feeling of, if you can imagine, you are one with everything, and then slowly, 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 you're being excruciatingly ripped and torn from that thing that is love. And it's painful. It's pain. It's not even physical pain. It's a deep spiritual pain of being ripped away from your origin. And if you can even imagine what that would feel like, if you can touch it right now in your body, you'll begin to access the origin point of your suffering. There was a belief when that separation happened of being torn from your original mother, father, your original source of life. There was this inherent feeling of being abandoned, as the sense of coming back into a physical body, that I could feel the sense of forgetting, like in the mind of creator, source, great spirit, everything was known. There was no separation. But as the layers were being torn away, as I was becoming further contracted down from my infinite vastness, further contracted down and down and down. It was agony, and for me, that's the oppression. That is the feeling of being oppressed, of being contained, of knowing yourself as the divine light attached to all things and beginning to be contained by this experience that we call life, and that this memory, this code of memory, it lies dormant inside your DNA. Our DNA is the key to all evolution on planet Earth. Eons and eons and eons and eons. Ancient stories of Earth. They all lie within our DNA. And so this experience then brought me from that all-encompassing love, and it brought me into the underworld immediately. And in that underworld, I was faced with the depth of suffering of the human experience. So if you can imagine every possible creation that humans have perpetrated on one another, on the planet, all creations. And I sat in that feeling as me as the creator also created that. Feeling what it was to have what you could perceive as the exact opposite experience of what I had just had prior to that. There was an experience of feeling in my physical body every program of the victim and the perpetrator and how that had been played out. Every program of the divide and conquer and how that had been played out. And simultaneously, as I'm experiencing all this in my body, I'm able to see how it's still being played out in the collective field by what we're experiencing and what we're creating in the here and now. I could see how everything was connected. And that went on for a while. And then there was a point at which the part of me that had become individuated again broke. It broke like a crystal doll. I broke apart with the agony and the sadness and the despair. It broke me. But in that breaking, is when grace entered again. I had to be broken in order to feel that I was never separate from that divine flow. I had to allow the transfiguration, right? The complete alchemy of one thing into another, and come into this place of divine neutrality. So it was almost as if there was a part of my being, and I'm telling you this because this is exactly what this key is about. People with the 47th gene key, they carry the soul template of walking the Christed path and carry a devotion to feeling all of the suffering of humanity because they're committed to helping unraveling the collective karma. And so this is, the gift of the shadow is the transmutation. And as I came in to this place of neutrality, the sense of neutrality, I was once again expansive as grace was flowing through me, and human. I was both. And in that place, there was such a deep sense of peace in my heart. There was a knowing that through that experience, I was able to transmute some of this suffering. That I was able to lay down the journey and the pathways or the ley lines into Mother Earth, so that all beings, all humans, all consciousness then had access to follow that template. And I am not the only one doing this consciously. There are beings on the earth, path clearers, that are actually embedding the path of light into the ley lines of earth for other people to actually key into, right? This is a DNA thing. To key into and then to open up in their body, in their meridians, in their internal ley lines, and actually find the codes within the DNA within them. So there's many of us creating these pathways and birthing these templates into earth. And the final part of that experience was the message to balance the scales. To balance the scales, to come into that central center 0 point, the void from which everything was born, and find your equanimity, find that place of centeredness and stillness, so that when the chaos ensues in the outer world, or when it ensues within you because of a daily experience that you're having or that you're confronted with, can you allow yourself to get still, to breathe, and to find your center? And from that center, allow yourself to go into whatever is presenting with you and watch the pattern that's appearing. Can you let yourself go into the underworld and actually find the pattern of the shadow that you hold that is yours to unravel and unwind? They're like knots in your DNA. And as you choose to go into them, you can visualize this. You can see the strands of DNA And you can see, feel, sense where they're knotted within your nadis, within your acupuncture points. And you can begin to literally, it's like following a thread, and then that thread that was once a tight little knot begins to slowly unwind and release. And you'll kind of feel this energetically, like, it depends on what it is, but often I'll feel like as it unwinds, it's like a poof. And it's like any pressure that was there kind of, it releases so softly and so gently. And I sometimes giggle at that, because that which I feared so much, when I faced it, it actually ceased to have any power or hold over me. Yet my mind had made a story about it, this story that made it feel so terrifying, so confronting. And yet once confronted, there was a grace and an ease to just letting it go. And it's funny, right, that our minds will truly, they'll tell us stories that are simply untrue. You know, that monkey mind is incessant with trying to keep you safe and secure. And it's in the stillness that you can witness it, and you can giggle at this energy in a way, and kind of find that like gentle place within where all of that inner narrative begins to quiet itself. You know, it begins to even barely be a whisper. And even in the whispers, it's like, okay, I see you, I hear you. But you're not, the point is that you're not shutting off from anything. So to transmute is to alchemize all of these shadows, all of these fears, all of this karmic field into grace, into gold, moving all of the density and distortion and the programs of the DNA that have been locked inside us, that's ancestral. And as we unwind that, allowing that grace to come in and unknot and lighten everything up. And you know how that comes? It comes through acceptance. It comes through truly accepting all that is. And I know that that is not an easy task when you see what's happening on this physical world right now. But what you'll experience is that when your heart and all of your beingness comes back into connection, plugging back into the grace of your origins as a creator, and you become that beacon of infinite light, it's like the power and the force of that grace of God, it just transfigures, it reshapes and restructures everything it touches. It's like as soon as anything that is distorted or dark, it like touches the heart of the divine that you are radiating out. It's like it dissolves it. It returns everything back to its origins, everything back into love. It is like you are a force for a new creation, a new world, a new heaven on earth to begin to birth itself through you. But as long as you are not in acceptance of something out there, then you are severed from your connection to the all. So it is this task of moving from the oppression, the heaviness, the weight of the world, the idea that you have to suffer, that you have to be sad, that you have to fight and be at war with that which you think is evil, into this transmutation. So it's not that you ignore it, you see it all. But through this inner process, you begin to transmute that which you no longer wish to create. First of all, bring it into the heart of acceptance, that there was a time and place in consciousness, you being a part of that consciousness, that your energy went to the participation in the creation of that, reclaiming your energy from that through forgiveness and acceptance back into your original heart, and alchemizing that once heavy, distorted, oppressive lead back into gold. So learning the art of transmuting and changing the energetics of what's inside of you, what is quantumly inside of you, into form. Learning how to become a conscious creator. And at some point, when you have faced every single thing, you will become the conduit and you will be transfigured, just like the path of Yeshua, through the ascension and the transfiguration. You will become the light of the oneness that is the sun or the radiance of God. I'm not even sure all that's come through right now, but I'm feeling a welling up of a lot of emotion, because that's what happens when grace pours in, you know, and we're on this journey together. And I'm so grateful for the people who have reached out and left me messages that have just inspired me to keep going, because it touches them. You know, I don't think of myself as a good teacher, but to have a reflection of another saying that it landed, it hit, I really needed your explanation. It warms my heart, and it is confirmation that the divine guidance that I received is able to be felt by those who watch my videos. You know, this is an endeavor just so I can relay the frequency and the codes for those who are willing to receive them at this time. So it's my honor for everybody who takes their precious time to watch these videos, to comment on these videos, to like them. This community hopefully will grow, and as we move into this next phase of this ascension on planet Earth and what it looks like to become conscious creators as we bring heaven to earth, there'll be more creations, you know, and there'll be co-creations, because right now collaboration is really, really important. The aloneness and the solitude has been pivotal, but there's a time coming when we are building this together, and we will come together physically and virtually. So the last thing I want to share is that particular point. If you want to access it on the body, right? So I'm an acupuncturist, and these gene keys, these portals, are on the body. And this particular point is lung 2, and it's right here, right? And this point, when you touch it and you connect it, and just let the energy come from just your fingers. Your fingers are great receptors and conductors of energy. And when you touch into that point, you can kind of feel the gaping hole of energy that it is. But this is a point to really tap into for helping to transmute grief. You know, the lung holds grief. It is the breath of life. And as we transmute that grief, we become light. We just become lighter. This ancestral karma that we've carried through our bloodlines all the way back to the beginning begins to transmute through this point. And then the radiance and the light and the dawning of our true and original self then comes through here. And this point is like, for me, it like actually connects right back to the back, like right in between that hole in your scapula. And this point and releasing grief, it lifts your scapula and it spreads your wings. So we can't fly if we're heavy and we're holding on to all of that old density and suffering. So it's time to let it go and time to release it. So I hope that little spiel on Gene Key 47 resonated with you. And I would love to hear your experience of this key and how it's touched you and how anything has touched you, or if you just want to share anything. I really, really appreciate it. If you like what I'm doing, I appreciate it when people subscribe. It really does keep me going. Until next time, sending you so much love, family, and so many blessings. And I'll see you soon.